The stars looked different through the window of the Starbound. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the alien world grow larger on the screen. 3 months ago, humanity had received their first message from space. Now they were about to meet the beings who sent it. "Captain, we're getting another transmission from the planet," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though she had never seen any until today. Jake nodded. "Put it on screen, Amy." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet, with skin that looked like green crystal. Its eyes were large and golden, and when it moved, its skin caught the light like a jewel. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. We welcome you to our world. We have prepared a great feast to celebrate this meeting between our peoples." Jake stepped forward. "Ambassador Veltar, this is Captain Jake Morrison. We are honored by your invitation. We look forward to learning about your culture." "Excellent," Veltar replied. "Please bring your science team. We will show you how civilized beings celebrate important events. Land at the coordinates we are sending you." The transmission ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew looked excited but nervous. This was the biggest moment in human history. "Amy, get Dr. Lisa Carter and tell her to prepare the diplomatic team," Jake said. "And get Sergeant Danny Walsh. I want security with us, just in case." 2 hours later, their shuttle landed on the Zephyrian world. The air was breathable, which was lucky. The city before them was amazing. Buildings rose like crystal mountains, catching sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow colors. Flying vehicles moved silently between the towers. Ambassador Veltar met them at the landing pad. Up close, he was even more impressive. His crystal skin seemed to change color as he moved. Behind him stood other Zephyrians, all tall and elegant. "Welcome to Zephyros Prime," Veltar said. "Come, let us show you our greatest city." The humans followed their hosts through wide streets. Everything was clean and beautiful. The Zephyrians moved with grace, and their city hummed with quiet energy. Dr. Lisa Carter, the team's diplomat, asked questions about their technology and culture. Veltar answered proudly, clearly wanting to impress the humans. Danny Walsh walked at the back of the group. He was a big man from Colorado who had joined the space program after years as a soldier. Before that, he had worked at an animal shelter, helping rescue dogs and cats. Something about this place made him nervous, though he could not say why. "Your city is beautiful," Dr. Carter said to Veltar. "How long did it take to build?" "Many centuries," Veltar replied. "We Zephyrians value order and tradition above all things. Everything we do has been done the same way for thousands of years. This is what makes us strong." They walked for an hour, seeing museums and art galleries. The Zephyrians were clearly proud of their achievements. Finally, Veltar led them to a large open area in the center of the city. Thousands of Zephyrians had gathered there, sitting in neat rows around a circular stage. "This is our ceremonial ground," Veltar explained. "Today, our young people become adults. It is a very important day. You will see how we honor tradition." Jake and his team found seats among the crowd. The ceremony began with music that sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Young Zephyrians came onto the stage, their crystal skin glowing brighter than the adults. "They are beautiful," Amy whispered. As a scientist, she was fascinated by everything she saw. The ceremony continued with speeches and songs. Then something changed. Veltar stood up and called for attention. "Now comes the most sacred part," he announced. "The feast of celebration." Other Zephyrians brought large metal cages onto the stage. Inside the cages were small, furry creatures. They looked exactly like puppies from Earth. They had big dark eyes, soft fur, and little tails that wagged when they saw the crowd. Danny felt his heart stop. The creatures were afraid. He could see it in their eyes, the way they pressed against each other in the cages. "These are flixlings," Veltar explained to the humans. "They are a great delicacy. Only on the most important days do we feast on them. The young ones will prepare them according to our ancient ways." The humans watched in horror as the young Zephyrians began building fires. Large cooking pots were brought out. The flickslings in the cages began making soft crying sounds. "They're going to cook them alive," Amy whispered, her face white with shock. Dr. Carter grabbed Jake's arm. "Captain, we have to do something." "We can't," Jake said quietly, though his jaw was tight with anger. "We're guests here. If we interfere, we could destroy the chance for peace between our species." Danny stood up from his seat. The flickslings were crying louder now, as if they knew what was coming. One of them, smaller than the others, looked right at him through the bars of its cage. "Sergeant, sit down," Jake ordered quietly. But Danny was remembering other animals he had seen in cages. Dogs that had been hurt and abandoned. Cats that had been left to die. He had sworn then that he would never let an innocent creature suffer if he could help it. The young Zephyrians opened the first cage. They pulled out a flicksling, holding it by its legs while it cried. The crowd cheered. "This is their culture," Dr. Carter whispered. "We can't judge them by our standards." Danny looked at his captain, then at the terrified creatures. He thought about the oath he had taken as a soldier, to protect those who could not protect themselves. He thought about every animal he had saved back on Earth. The Zephyrian holding the flicksling raised it toward the fire. Danny made his choice. "No," he shouted, jumping from his seat. He ran toward the stage, pushing through the crowd of surprised Zephyrians. Behind him, he heard Jake calling his name, heard Dr. Carter trying to apologize to Ambassador Veltar. But Danny only saw the small creature about to die, and he ran faster. The ceremony had become chaos. The most important day in young Zephyrian. Lives had been destroyed by a human who could not watch innocent creatures suffer. And in that moment, everything changed between the two species. Danny reached the stage in seconds. The young Zephyrian holding the flicksling stepped back in surprise, his golden eyes wide with shock. Danny gently but firmly took the small creature from the alien's hands. The flicksling was warm and soft, trembling with fear. It looked up at Danny with large, dark eyes that seemed almost human. Its small heart was beating so fast Danny could feel it through its fur. "It's okay, little guy," Danny whispered. "I've got you." The ceremonial ground had gone completely silent. Thousands of Zephyrians stared at the human who had dared to interrupt their most sacred ritual. Ambassador Veltar's crystal skin had turned a deep red color, which the humans quickly realized meant anger. "What is the meaning of this?" Veltar demanded, his voice echoing across the silent crowd. "You have destroyed our most holy ceremony." Captain Jake Morrison jumped onto the stage, followed by Dr. Lisa Carter and the rest of the human team. Jake's face was red with embarrassment and anger at his sergeant's actions. "Ambassador Veltar, I apologize deeply for Sergeant Walsh's behavior," Jake said quickly. "Please understand, he meant no disrespect to your culture." "No disrespect?" Veltar's voice was like ice. "He has ruined the coming-of-age ceremony for these young ones. This cannot be undone. The shame will follow them forever." Danny stood holding the flicksling, looking at the other creatures still trapped in their cages. They were all watching him, as if they understood he was trying to help them. "Captain," Danny said quietly, "look at their eyes. Really look at them. These aren't just animals. They understand what's happening to them." Dr. Carter stepped forward, trying to fix the situation with diplomacy. "Ambassador, on our world, creatures that look like these are companions to humans. They are our friends." Sergeant Walsh reacted from emotion, not from any wish to insult. "You? Friends?" Veltar seemed confused. "These are flickslings. They are food, nothing more. Do humans not eat animals on your world?" "We do," Amy Rodriguez said carefully. "But we choose animals that are not intelligent. We don't eat creatures that can think and feel like we do." The young Zephyrians on the stage looked confused and upset. Their ceremony was ruined and they did not understand why. Some of the adult Zephyrians in the crowd were making angry sounds, their crystal skin flashing different colors. Veltar drew himself up to his full height. "You claim these flickslings are intelligent? This is impossible. We have eaten them for thousands of years. Our ancestors were not monsters. Maybe your ancestors didn't know," Danny said, still holding the small creature. Maybe nobody ever stopped to really look at them before. One of the young Zephyrians, a female with bright, blue crystal skin, stepped forward. "Honored ambassador," she said in a voice like music. "The human may speak truth. When I was a child, I had a pet flixling. It learned its name. It came when I called. My parents made me give it away when I grew older." Veltar turned to face her, his skin now flashing between red and yellow. "Kethara, you speak foolishness. Your childhood pet was trained, nothing more. Like a performing animal." But Kethara looked at the flixling in Danny's arms. "No, honored one. Look at its eyes. See how it watches us. It knows we are talking about it." The flixling seemed to understand the attention. It made a soft sound, almost like it was trying to speak. Danny felt it relax slightly in his arms, as if it trusted him. Dr. Carter saw a chance to save the situation. "Ambassador Veltar, perhaps we could study these creatures together. Our scientists could work with yours to learn the truth about their intelligence." "There is no need for study," came a new voice. Another Zephyrian had entered the ceremonial ground, this one larger than the others and with skin like black crystal. "I am War Commander Zixith. The humans have insulted our people and our traditions. They must be punished." The crowd's mood changed instantly. Where before there had been confusion and surprise, now there was anger. The Zephyrians began making a low humming sound that made the humans nervous. "War Commander," Veltar said, "perhaps we should consider—" "There is nothing to consider," Zixith interrupted. "These creatures have been our food since before recorded history. One human's emotional outburst does not change thousands of years of tradition. The ceremony will continue." Zixith gestured to his soldiers who had quietly surrounded the stage. They moved toward Danny, clearly intending to take the flixling from him. Danny backed away, holding the creature protectively. "Captain, I can't let them do this." Jake was caught between his duty as a diplomat and his responsibility to his crew. If he supported Danny, it could mean war between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire. If he abandoned Danny, he would lose the respect of his crew and betray everything humans believed about protecting the innocent. "Sergeant Walsh," Jake said slowly, "you have disobeyed a direct order." Danny's heart sank. He had expected this, but it still hurt. "However," Jake continued, "I cannot order any member of my crew to watch innocent creatures suffer when they have the power to help them." The captain stepped beside his sergeant, facing the Zephyrian soldiers. One by one, the other humans joined them. Dr. Carter, Amy Rodriguez, even the shuttle pilot who had stayed quiet until now. "We respect your culture, Ambassador Veltar," Jake said firmly, "but we cannot respect cruelty to intelligent life. If these creatures are truly just animals, prove it. Let our scientists study them fairly." War Commander Zixith's black crystal skin began to glow with anger. "You dare make demands on Zephyrian soil? Your ship is outnumbered 50-1. We could destroy you and tell your people you died in an accident." "You could," Jake agreed calmly, "but that would make you exactly the kind of monsters we're trying to prove you're not." The standoff continued. Thousands of Zephyrians watched, as the small group of humans protected a handful of small, furry creatures. In Danny's arms, the flixling made a soft sound and touched his face with one tiny paw, as if trying to comfort him. The gesture was so human-like that even some of the Zephyrians gasped in surprise. Kethara spoke up again. "War Commander, if the humans are wrong, the study will prove it. If they are right—" She paused, looking at the flixlings in their cages. "If they are right, then we have been committing a great wrong for many generations." The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Everything that happened next would determine whether two species could find peace together, or whether humanity had just made their first enemy among the stars. The next 3 days changed everything. Dr. Lisa Carter had managed to convince Ambassador Veltar to allow a joint study of the flixlings. It was a compromise that satisfied no one completely, but it prevented immediate violence. The humans were given a small laboratory in the Zephyrian Science Center, watched constantly by guards. Amy Rodriguez worked day and night with her portable scanners, studying the flixlings that Danny had rescued from the ceremony. She was joined by Kethara, the young Zephyrian scientist who had spoken up during the crisis. "These readings are incredible," Amy said, looking at her scanner. "Their brain patterns are more complex than we thought possible for creatures this size." Kithara examined the data on her own crystal device. "The neural activity is similar to our own children," she admitted quietly. "But this cannot be correct. We have eaten flixlings for centuries. My own family has prepared them for special occasions." The flixling they were studying sat calmly on the examination table. It seemed to understand that the two scientists were trying to help. When Amy held up different colored objects, the creature pointed to them in the right order. When Kethara spoke to it in simple Zephyrian words, it responded with different sounds for different meanings. "It's learning," Amy said with amazement. "In just 3 days, it's learning to communicate." Meanwhile, Danny Walsh had been confined to the human ship, but he had not been idle. He had smuggled 5 flixlings aboard the Starbound before the guards could stop him. Dr. Kevin Turner, the ship's medical officer, was studying them in the sick bay. "Danny, you need to see this," Kevin called. Danny hurried to the medical bay. One of the flixlings had been injured during the capture, with a cut on its leg from the metal cage. Kevin had bandaged it, but that was not what excited him. "Watch," Kevin said. He carefully removed the bandage. The cut was completely healed. Not just scabbed over, but healed completely with no scar. "How is that possible?" Danny asked. "I'm not sure, but I think they have some kind of bioelectric healing ability," Kevin explained. "Their bodies generate a small electrical field that speeds up cell repair. It's incredible." Danny looked at the small creature, which seemed pleased with itself. "These little guys are full of surprises." Back on the planet, the political situation was getting worse. War Commander Zixith had called a meeting of the Zephyrian High Council. The humans were not invited, but Ambassador Veltar kept them informed. "The War Commander believes you are trying to destroy our culture," Veltar explained to Captain Morrison. "He says that if we stop eating flixlings because humans tell us too soon, we will have to change everything about our society to please aliens." Jake rubbed his forehead. He was tired from 3 days of constant diplomatic pressure. "Ambassador, we're not trying to change your culture. We just want to protect intelligent life." "But don't you see the problem?" Veltar asked. "If the flixlings are intelligent, then my people have been committing murder for thousands of years. How do we live with that knowledge?" It was a question that had no easy answer. The study results came in on the 4th day. Amy and Kithara had tested dozens of flixlings with puzzles, memory games, and communication exercises. Every test showed the same thing. The creatures were as intelligent as human children. "We cannot hide this," Kithara said, her blue crystal skin dim with sadness. "The evidence is clear. Flixlings can think, feel, and learn. They understand death. They mourn their friends. They have been trying to communicate with us for generations, but we never listened." Amy put a gentle hand on the alien scientist's shoulder. "Your people couldn't have known. You can only make decisions based on what you understand at the time." But the revelation split Zephyrian society down the middle. The younger Zephyrians, led by Kithara, demanded an immediate end to eating flixlings. The older ones, especially those in the military, refused to accept that their ancestors had done anything wrong. War Commander Zixith made his position clear in a public broadcast. "These humans come to our world and tell us our food is intelligent. Next they will tell us our homes are wrong, our government is wrong, our entire way of life is wrong. This is how conquest begins, not with weapons, but with lies that make us doubt ourselves." His words found support among many Zephyrians who feared change. Riots broke out in several cities. Some Zephyrians attacked flixling farms, demanding they continue operating. Others attacked the same farms, trying to free the creatures. Ambassador Veltar visited the human team with terrible news. "The High Council has made a decision," he said, his crystal skin gray with exhaustion. "War Commander Zixith has convinced them that the humans are a threat to our society." "What does that mean?" Dr. Carter asked, though she feared the answer. "All flixlings on our world are to be destroyed within 7 days," Veltar said quietly. "The War Commander says this will end the controversy," If there are no flixlings left, there can be no more arguments about eating them. The humans stared at him in horror. You're talking about genocide, Jake said. I am sorry, Veltar replied. I tried to stop this, but the war commander has more influence than I do. He has convinced the council that this is the only way to preserve order. Danny felt sick. How many flixlings are there on your planet? Perhaps 50,000, Veltar answered. Maybe more. They live in the wild as well as on farms. We have to do something, Amy said desperately. There is nothing we can do, Veltar said. The orders have been given. Zixeth's soldiers are already moving to carry them out. That night, Captain Morrison called his senior staff together in the ship's conference room. The 5 flixlings that Danny had rescued sat on the table, listening to the conversation as if they understood every word. We have a choice, Jake said. We can leave this planet and return to Earth, or we can try to save as many flixlings as possible. If we interfere, it could mean war, Dr. Carter pointed out. If we don't interfere, we'll be letting genocide happen when we could have stopped it, Danny replied. Chief Engineer Maria Santos spoke up. Captain, I've been working on the transporter systems. If we could get close enough to the flixling populations, we might be able to beam them up to the ship, but it would mean violating Zephyrian airspace. How many could we save? Jake asked. Maybe a few thousand if we're lucky and fast, Maria replied. But the Zephyrian fleet would try to stop us. We might not make it out. Jake looked around the table at his crew. These people had volunteered for the mission knowing they might never see Earth again. Now he was asking them to risk their lives for creatures from another world. I won't order anyone to do this, he said. It has to be a choice. One by one, every member of the crew volunteered. The rescue mission would begin at dawn. The Starbound moved through space like a ghost in the early morning darkness. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the Zephyrian planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for the most dangerous mission any of them had ever attempted. Maria, what's our status? Jake asked. Chief Engineer Maria Santos looked up from her console. Transporter systems are ready, Captain. I've boosted the power as much as I can. We should be able to beam up groups of 50 flixlings at a time. Security. Chief Tony Parker reporting, came a voice from the communications system. Shuttle teams are ready. We've got emergency life support set up in cargo bays 1 through 4. Jake nodded. They had planned this carefully. The ship would stay in orbit while smaller shuttles went down to collect flixlings from locations that were too dangerous for transporter use. It was risky, but it was their only chance to save as many creatures as possible. Amy, have you heard anything from Cathara? Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez shook her head sadly. Nothing since yesterday. The war commander has placed all civilian scientists under guard. She can't help us even if she wants to. On the planet below, the killing had already begun. War Commander Zixeth's soldiers were moving from farm to farm, destroying every flixling they found. The creatures had no defense against the Zephyrians' advanced weapons. Entire families of flixlings were being wiped out in minutes. Captain, called Communications Officer Ryan Brooks. I'm picking up distress signals from the planet. The flixlings are crying out. It's like they know what's happening to their friends. Jake's jaw tightened. Every minute they waited, more innocent creatures died. Lieutenant Steve Johnson, take us into the atmosphere, he ordered. Keep us low and fast. Use the mountains to hide our approach. Steve was the best pilot in the human fleet. His hands moved over the controls like he was playing music. The Starbound dropped toward the planet, weaving between peaks and valleys to avoid Zephyrian sensors. First target coming up, Amy announced. Flixling Preserve, 30 kilometers ahead. I'm reading about 200 life signs. Tony, launch shuttles 1 and 2, Jake ordered. Maria, prepare for mass transport. The 2 small shuttles shot away from the main ship like arrows. They flew low and fast toward the preserve where hundreds of flixlings lived in the wild. The creatures had built simple shelters in the trees, living together in family groups. Tony Parker led the ground team. As soon as his shuttle landed, he and his people jumped out with portable transport beacons. The flixlings scattered at first, frightened by the strange beings. But then some of them seemed to recognize the humans as the same species that had tried to help them before. Danny was right, Tony said into his communicator. They remember us. They're coming toward us instead of running away. On the ship, Maria worked frantically at her transporter controls. Groups of flickslings began appearing in the cargo bays, looking confused but safe. The ship's medical team, led by Dr. Kevin Turner, was ready with food and water. Transport successful, Maria reported. 200 flickslings secured in Cargo Bay 1, but their success was short-lived. Alarms began sounding on the bridge. Captain Zephyrian fighters approaching fast, Ryan announced. They've spotted us. How long until they reach us? Jake asked. 3 minutes, maybe less. Jake made a quick decision. Tony, get your teams back to the ship. Steve, prepare for emergency departure. But Captain, Amy protested, there are thousands more flickslings down there. The next preserve is only 10 minutes away. If we stay, we'll lose everyone, Jake replied, including the ones we've already saved. The shuttles raced back to the Starbound with Zephyrian fighters closing in behind them. Tony's team made it, aboard just as the first enemy weapons fire lit up the sky around them. Shields up, Jake ordered. Steve, get us out of here. The Starbound shot upward, trying to escape into space. But the Zephyrian fighters were fast and well-armed. Energy. Beam struck the human ship's shields, making the whole vessel shake. Shields down to 60%, Maria reported. Return fire, Jake ordered. Though he hated the idea of shooting at the Zephyrians. Security Chief Tony Parker had returned to the bridge. Captain, we could try a hit-and-run approach. Jump to different locations quickly, grab as many flickslings as we can, then run before they can respond. Too dangerous, Dr. Carter said. If they catch us on the ground, we're finished. But Steve Johnson had an idea. Captain, what if we don't land at all? We could use the transporters from orbit, beam the flickslings directly to the ship. The range is too far, Maria objected. Not if we modify the transporter with the flicksling's bioelectric field, Kevin suggested over the communicator. I've been studying their healing ability. Their natural electrical field could boost our transporter signal. It was crazy, but it might work. Jake looked at the 5 flickslings that Danny had rescued, who were sitting on the bridge watching everything with their large, intelligent eyes. Can you help us save your friends? Jake asked them. One of the flickslings, the smallest one that Danny had first rescued, made a series of sounds. Then it walked over to Maria's console and put its tiny paws on the transporter controls. I think that's a yes, Amy said with amazement. The plan worked better than anyone had hoped. The flicksling's bioelectric field allowed the transporters to reach much farther than normal. From orbit, the Starbound began pulling groups of creatures to safety from all over the planet. But the Zephyrian fleet was getting organized. More and more ships were rising from the planet to intercept them. Captain, I count 27 enemy vessels, Ryan reported. They're surrounding us. Then disaster struck. A lucky shot from a Zephyrian cruiser hit the Starbound's engine room. The ship lurched violently, throwing everyone to the floor. Engine room to bridge, came Maria's voice, strained with pain. We've lost main power. I'm hurt bad, Captain. Steve struggled with the controls. Sir, we're falling back toward the planet. I can't maintain orbit. In the cargo bays, hundreds of rescued flickslings cried out in fear as the ship shook around them. They had escaped death on the planet only to face it in space. How many have we saved? Jake asked. 812, Amy replied. It was not enough. There were still thousands of flickslings on the planet below, and now the Starbound was crippled and surrounded. The rescue mission had failed, and they might all die for it. But in Cargo Bay 1, something incredible was happening. The flickslings were working together, their small bodies glowing with bioelectric energy. They seemed to understand that the ship was in trouble, and they were trying to help in the only way they knew how. Dr. Kevin Turner watched in amazement as the creatures formed a circle, their combined electrical field growing stronger and stronger. Captain, he called over the communicator. You need to see this. The flickslings are trying to fix the ship. The cargo bay filled with a soft blue light as hundreds of flickslings joined together in perfect harmony. Their bioelectric fields combined into something beautiful and powerful. Dr. Kevin Turner watched in amazement as the small creatures worked, as one mind, their energy flowing through the ship's damaged systems. "Captain Morrison to the bridge," Kevin called over the communicator. "The Flixlings are doing something incredible." On the bridge, Jake could feel the ship's power returning. Lights that had gone dark were coming back on. The engines that had been failing were humming with new life. "Maria, what's happening down there?" Jake asked. Chief Engineer Maria Santos, injured but still working, looked at her instruments with wonder. "Sir, the bioelectric energy from the Flixlings is repairing our circuits. They're somehow understanding our technology and fixing it from the inside." Steve Johnson felt the ship's controls respond again. "Captain, I have power restored. We can maneuver." But the real shock came when one of the rescued Flixlings on the bridge began making complex sounds. Amy Rodriguez listened carefully, then gasped. "Captain, I think it's trying to communicate with the Zephyrian ships." The small creature continued its sounds, and incredibly, a response came over the ship's communication system. It was Cathara, the young Zephyrian scientist. "Humans of the Starbound, this is Cathara. I am aboard one of the pursuit ships. The Flixling you carry is speaking to us in our own language. How is this possible?" Jake looked at the small creature with new respect. "Cathara, they're more intelligent than any of us realized. They've been learning from us, just as we've been learning from them. The Flixling tells us that its people want peace," Cathara continued. "It says they have always wanted peace, but no one ever listened to them before." War Commander Zixith's voice broke into the transmission, full of anger. "Lies and tricks. These humans are using technology to make the creatures speak. Destroy their ship now." But something was happening on the Zephyrian ships. Other young Zephyrians were hearing the Flixlings speak and were refusing orders. The revelation that the small creatures could communicate in the Zephyrian language was spreading through the fleet. "War Commander?" came a voice from another ship. "If the Flixlings can speak our language, they have been trying to talk to us for centuries. Every time we prepared them for food, they were begging for their lives. The truth hit the Zephyrian crews like a physical blow. Generations of their people had been killing intelligent beings who could think and feel and speak. The weight of that knowledge was crushing." On the planet below, something even more dramatic was happening. Cathara had managed to broadcast the conversation to the entire world. Every Zephyrian was hearing Flixlings speak their language for the first time. Small creatures were not angry or vengeful. Instead, they spoke of forgiveness and hope. They said they understood that the Zephyrians had not known the truth. They wanted to work together to build a better future. War Commander Zixith found himself alone. His own soldiers refused to fire on the Starbound. Some of them were crying, their crystal skin dim with shame and sorrow. "This changes nothing," Zixith declared, but his voice was weak. "Tradition is tradition." "No," came a new voice. It was Ambassador Veltar, speaking from the planet. "Some traditions must end when we learn they are wrong. The High Council has voted. All killing of Flixlings will stop immediately. War Commander Zixith, you are relieved of command." The Zephyrian fleet began to withdraw. Some ships actually helped the Starbound repair its damage, working alongside the Flixlings whose bioelectric abilities made the repairs go much faster. Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay, watching Zephyrians and Flixlings work together for the first time in their history. Danny Walsh was there too, holding the small Flixling he had first rescued, the one who had learned to speak Zephyrian. "What will you call this little one?" Jake asked. Danny smiled. "Hope. I think I'll call him Hope." The small creature looked up at Danny and made a sound that, in any language, clearly meant friend. 3 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of a new space station orbiting a beautiful green world. Below them, the first Flixling city was being built with help from both humans and Zephyrians. The creatures were amazing builders, their small size and electrical abilities letting them create things that neither humans nor Zephyrians could manage alone. Dr. Lisa Carter joined him at the window. "The Interspecies Protection Treaty was signed this morning," she reported. "Every known intelligent species in this part of the galaxy has agreed to protect beings who cannot protect themselves." "And Danny?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled. The Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency made him their first director. He's down on the planet now, teaching young Flixlings and young Zephyrians how to work together. Amy Rodriguez came running up to them, excited as always when she discovered something new. Captain, you have to see this. The Flixlings have been sharing their bioelectric technology with us. Dr. Turner thinks we can use it to heal injuries that would normally take months to recover from. Jake nodded, but he was thinking about something else. The rescue mission had saved only 800 Flixlings out of thousands, but those 800 had taught 2 entire species about compassion and understanding. You know what the real victory was, Jake said to his friends. It wasn't saving the Flixlings, though that was important. It was proving that different species can learn to be better when they work together. On the planet below, Danny Walsh was teaching a group of young Zephyrians how to care for injured Flixlings. The same creatures that their parents had once considered food were now their teachers and friends. Hope, the first Flixling Danny had saved, had grown larger and more confident. He translated between the species, helping them understand each other. He had become a symbol of the peace between worlds. Sergeant Walsh, asked one young Zephyrian, her blue crystal skin bright with curiosity. Why did you risk everything to save Hope when you first met him? Danny looked at the small group of mixed species around him, all learning to heal and help instead of hurt and destroy. Because, he said simply, when you see someone suffering and you have the power to help them, you help them. It doesn't matter what species they are or what planet they come from. Good beings protect those who need protection. Hope made a sound of agreement, and the young Zephyrian's skin glowed with understanding. Years later, when historians wrote about the first contact between species, they would call it many things. But the Flixlings had their own name for it. They called it the day the universe learned to care. And in a way, that was exactly what it was. The small act of one human who refused to watch innocent creatures suffer had changed the course of galactic history. It had shown that sometimes the greatest strength was not in weapons or technology, but in the simple decision to do what was right, no matter the cost. Danny Walsh had jumped onto that stage to save one small life. In the end, he had saved thousands of lives and brought peace between worlds. That was the human way. That was what made humanity special in a galaxy full of wonders. They never gave up on doing the right thing.